Hi.
Hey, what's up? I
Not
recognize the name, so I accepted. How are you?
yeah. Sorry, I'm doing good. I'm pretty new to having more than 1,000 followers, so I had no idea how to do a live.
No, you're good. No, you're chill. Is this your first dual live technically?
Yeah,
Nice, nice. It's a pretty cool feature. It's pretty easy to use. Um, the cool thing is that once you're done with these, like when you any kind of live you do or any dual live you do, you can go to your settings and you can actually download them when you're done too. So you can like
yeah.
download those and stuff.
I saw
Okay.
that the other night. My second live I ever did. I apparently went live in my sleep. Pretty embarrassing, but I had to go back and look at it and make sure it wasn't too
Wasn't too
embarrassing.
crazy.
Yeah. So I was
Nice,
just
nice.
watching your live with the other guy, the Minneapolis police officer,
Mhm.
and it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was a. We're very different in our approaches, obviously. So there's a bit of a disconnect because typically when I have these conversations, I like to kind of more look at like population level data and kind of analyze situations. And it seemed he was kind of more of like a let's talk personal experience, which is relevant, but it seemed like a bit of a disconnect between me and him. But it was some good insight to his mindset, right?
True, true. It was. I was reading the comments on your page and I was like, I don't know if I want to go live because they're like tearing this dude apart and he's being sincere. But here I am because I'm up for a friendly debate. I really think that both sides are sick of the media. And
Mhm.
what caught my attention was your handle on TikTok, Mute the Media. And I'm like, okay, this guy knows something. So I don't think that it's just the right saying the media is bad or it's just the left saying, I think we need to talk as just American citizens.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I respected some of your videos and stuff like that. I kind of checked it out. I was like, no, you seem like a truly um, that I, some people kind of push back on this, but honestly, like my videos come out hard against the right, right? But I do recognize
Yeah,
I grew up conservative, right? I grew up conservative. I was a registered Republican until 2019. So I think that's kind of where some of my animosity comes from because oftentimes I'm directing this shit back at almost myself sometimes, right? It's like I
yeah,
used to hold some of these views and things like that, right? So I think that's where some of the anger comes from. But to your point, media is something that drives, I think, a lot of this anger, right? There's the corporate reality of media, right? And that they don't really care about truth. They don't even necessarily care about perspective. They simply care about engagement and what draws engagement. Division,
exactly.
conflict, right?
It's the same thing. It's like how do you get some like you said in your video the other day, how do you get somebody's attention? You come at them, you come at them hard, you say asshole thing, you say whatever
No,
you
you're good.
can to get their attention, and the media does the same thing. um kind of like TikTok is a national security threat. Of course it is. You shut us down on Facebook, you shut us down on Twitter, now we're talking on TikTok face to face and y'all don't like it.
That's the
So
thing people don't want to recognize is like all of these big tech companies, the third party sharing of data and things like that, post 9/11, the NSA and Patriot Act, and all these things is like, dude, our privacy is there's no such thing as privacy anymore in this era of the world we live. It's not a thing. Like
yeah,
if you think you have unless you're off the grid, you don't
you
have
have
privacy.
no privacy. None.
No, none
Okay,
whatsoever.
so I don't really have many followers that are on or anybody that's giving me like topics. So where do you want to go with this?
You're good. We'll do one topic because I was gonna hop off, but let's think. What is there something that kind of that you wanted to ask, or something you kind of had in mind, or was it, or do you care if I just pick something, or was there something you want to
You
bring up?
I'll let you lead just because I've got so much running through my head and it's like I pick this and then I'll go, no, I want to do this. So I'll let you.
So how about this? I guess since you're here and you saw some of the debates or some of the discussions, um, was there something that you heard from either of them that you disagreed with or you agreed with, maybe that like kind of stood out within all this? Because I know you saw some of the comments, right? You felt like they were pretty negative on minded things, which I agree.
Yeah.
There were a lot of negative comments. Were there some things that
So
you felt like maybe were unfair or something? And guys, I'm telling you, of all the people not to go at, do not go at her. She's literally the nicest out of all of them. Like motherfuckers. Like god
I
damn.
really I really am nice, y'all. Look, so I've even gone at my own followers just because I'm like, look, we're not going to come on my page and be a jerk to fellow Americans. Just don't do it. But I watched you when he got off and just your comments for a little bit and what you said about officers and like them finding it hard to say something bad about a fellow officer. It's true. Look, my grandfather, my biological father's father, is an ex-sheriff's deputy, and he was a crooked cop. And like I say, I back the blue all damn day long. I back them until they start doing illegal and criminal activities, and then I'm done. You need to go. And I think that everybody deserves a fair trial. So he needed a trial. Um, Let me just say he's guilty. He's damn sure guilty. He didn't belong having his knee on that man's neck. I mean, if you need to get him down on the ground and you need to handcuff him, then you need to get the hell off of him.
Yeah.
There is certain protocol, and they're taught that. They're all taught that. I don't want to hear that crap about we're not trained or we aren't. No, So you get him down on the ground and you get up. And then you have one of my biggest problems is you have bystanders videoing it.
Thank
And
you.
then you step in and do something. He's one cop. He can't do anything to 30 people. And you've got all these people posting videos. Our first instinct nowadays, and it's my generation. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 28 or
Same
29.
age.
Sorry, I'm the
Yeah.
wrong age. I'm 29. So it's my generation that just wants to pull their phone out and video the whole thing.
Let me pause you real quick. You're getting a ton
Yeah,
of love from my comments right now. By the way, they're saying that they appreciate a conservative who can have your principles, but like call these things out when you see it and stuff like that. So they're getting
yeah,
a lot of love for the comments right now. So
sweet.
just thought I'd give that to you. Yeah, I think you brought up you just brought up a really good point. I think that's kind of what I try to bring up with him, right? There were three other cops there, right? And like I try to ask him if a cop is doing something wrong, don't you think citizens should still step up even if they're a cop, right? And he didn't want to answer that question, because it's like, to your point, don't videotape that. There's 10 of us. If we all step up and say this is wrong, they have to stop, right? Like, it just takes one person oftentimes, man. If one person steps up, people will follow them. So I think if it had one person, it should have been one of the officers on scene, right? One of those other three cops. They should have stopped that, first and
Yeah,
foremost. But I think if any one person had truly stepped up, I think more might have.
exactly.
So
So where was I going? Oh, with the fair trial. So he had a fair trial, I think, but I think that our politicians open their mouths too much. I think our celebrities open their mouths too much too. We don't give a crap what you think, Taylor Swift or any damn body else. Um, but our politicians open their mouths, and Maxine Waters, she's the entire reason he's getting another trial besides the juror. But you open your mouth and you call for violence, and I'll get to Trump in a minute. I know it's
you're good.
coming in your comments.
You're good.
But you open your mouth and you call for violence, and it's like you just ruin the entire integrity of that trial. So he's convicted, and a lot of people say they wanted first degree murder, but I'm sorry. I don't
It's
have a
not first
bachelor's or an
degree.
associate's degree. I'll call it out. But I have
You're
been
chill,
to
man.
some college. There's no
I
first
don't
degree. You
I don't
prove
see
intent.
first there. Yeah, I don't see first there either.
So see,
I have
you're
a hard
level headed.
time. Yeah, I have a hard time. Don't get me wrong. I think I can make arguments for first, but I don't. It's not the hill I'm going to die on. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just me
Yeah,
playing devil's advocate. I think second it needed to be second in my opinion.
yeah.
Um, to that end, this was kind of going somewhere. Okay, the violence. Yeah, I think there's two kind of things I addressed there, right? I think one of the problems is the issue of just how fast information travels today. Once upon a time, it was super easy to like kind of, okay, let's move a trial here, kind of keep it on information locked down. The jurors aren't going to hear much. That's like impossible nowadays. Like it is impossible to keep like a jury impartial. It is impossible. And so like to that point, it's like, yeah, I actually don't agree with politicians. Like I think if they're going to speak on these types of things, it should be pretty measured, right? Like I understand we all have views, so it should be measured. That being said, I'm not gonna. I have my opinions. I'm not gonna what I would call tone police certain demographics um, when it comes to situations that are understandably more emotionally charged for them than for me. Um, I don't I don't agree with how certain people say things. Like for example, I'll give an example. The riots last summer and some of what happened in Portland. I actually didn't agree with Wheeler's commentary on that. The mayor. I thought
Yeah.
he's left leaning. I thought a lot of his rhetoric and a lot of the way he approached that was actually weak. I think better off than just kind of acting like it's all okay is acknowledging that there's some validity to this anger and to this feeling, but there's a proper way to express that and there's a proper way to channel that. Now,
Thank you.
if you yeah, and if now here's where I think conservatives have a hard time. If you properly utilize those channels and they're not met, okay, fair as fucking fair, maybe, right? If democracy is not working, if the system's not working, it goes back to the whole election thing. If that election was actually rigged, I have no problem with what went down in the sixth.
Thank you. So here's my thing with the election being rigged. Okay, y'all, I'll call it out. I don't care. I'm done with the hate. Like, I'll own it. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I am. But I'm also a level-headed conspiracy theorist. There is some truth to every conspiracy out there, for the most part. There really is. But some of them are like, wow, that's outlandish. That's insane. Like, JFK's still alive, or or Junior.
Yeah,
Okay, come on now, But I really do feel, just from the way that things went down. I mean, come on, our pipeline had a cyber attack on it and it shut
yeah.
down. You can hack a pipeline, but you can't hack an election. It just doesn't. It's like they think that we're all stupid.
Well, they
It's
do. Well,
insane.
I think you have a point here. I think this is because I think the word conspiracy theory kind of throws people off. I think the thing is, we all know that there's pretty powerful people in play here. And they don't necessarily want us all to see everything that's going on, right? Because transparency is not a good thing when you're at the top. Um, with that being said, I do think that there's ways that we can verify our election, because again, it goes back to it's kind of a catch-22. So like if you acknowledge something's wrong, right? So like we acknowledge that cyber attack on, and it was a pretty significant one. I think the CCP directed a lot of that, right? In Russia, Russia was huge actually on that one. But the problem is when we can see that these things happen, it can kind of feed other beliefs, right? And it's like I see what you're saying, right? Just because this could happen, maybe this could happen too. But that's where I'd say, but let's then dive into it, and let's really look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but some examples are like, for example, like I come off as a crazy fucking conspiracy theorist. So some people want to talk about Iran. It's like, what are you talking about? That's not what it says in the news, right? And then they go look up certain things, and it's not. So, for example, like the views from Americans on the NCRI, which is a resistance group against the Iranian government, for the most part, it's wrong. Like, they think they're like some crazy cultist, blah blah blah, things like this, and it's like, that's just Western propaganda. So to your point, there's a lot of fake narratives, right? Things like that. So I think it's kind of on us to kind of become more critical and try and dive through that and piece it apart and
yeah,
find that jazz, right? But we talked a lot there. Maybe you want to take back?
yeah. Okay, so I need to get this out here. It's like it weighs heavy on my heart every day. Um, First, I'll start by saying I woke up this morning and I'm going through my For You page on TikTok. I do it every morning. And it's like every other video is either a conservative or a liberal, whoever, and they're like calling for unity. I was in tears because it's what I've been preaching for 4 years. We need to unite. We need to talk to each other. Look, the majority, and I can't speak for everyone. I'm not going to pretend to do that. I've said it in my videos. I'm going to be real. But the majority of us, we're not a cult, y'all. Come on now. This, I don't even know how to say it. Like, okay, I went to one of Trump's rallies in Pensacola, Florida. I live in Alabama. And he's really like a pissed off grandpa who seems to genuinely love this country and wants to do what he can to help. Look, he's a freaking billionaire. He could have been sitting on a beach somewhere with Melania drinking martinis, and he gave it up to save this country. And he's not a seasoned politician, he's a
Not at all.
businessman.
Yeah.
And I feel like he got into politics, so he kind of started to become a politician. And you see, that's where the left starts going, well, he is, but he's really not. Now I don't know him. I've never met him in person and talked to him. So I can't go, oh, well, he's this and this, because I don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
just from the way that he talks and the way that he's an asshole. Look, my husband's an asshole. They say stupid crap, but they're blunt. And I think that's what we needed. Now, on the backside of that, I think that he was there to give us our strength and say, stand the hell up. And actually, he was talking to the left too. They just wouldn't listen.
That's
So,
where I'd probably push back a tad bit.
okay.
I think I I think not push back. I think I'd ask a question just to kind of gauge because someone the other night I had someone on Robert. I don't know if he's still in here. If you're still in here, Robert, what's up? But he said the same thing, right? He had this. He believed that Trump really cared about America and loved America, right? Regardless, like what we think of him as an approach to like that. Because to that point, he didn't have to be doing this. And I asked him, "Do you think that Trump's a narcissist?" And he actually said yes. And so, do you mind if I ask, do you think Trump's a narcissist?
Um, yeah, I do. And I have no problems admitting that. Look, I came from a narcissistic parenthood. My mom was a
Oof.
narcissist. I love her to death. And she's one of those narcissists that really doesn't. I don't want to take up for her because it's almost enabling, but it's like you can see the good intent. They just come off terribly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do think he's a narcissist. But uh, who wouldn't
No,
be at that level? You know?
I actually kind of agree with that. So I'll just admit it. I have some big fucking goals, right? I've put some crazy shit out there to some degree. You have to be at least somewhat fucking arrogant and crazy to think you can go up to that point and kind of make decisions at that level. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
I can see that because I'm kind of crazy and arrogant, right? Um, but I do think there's a difference between some crazy arrogance, maybe even stupid confidence, maybe even healthy confidence, whatever. Like those are all different things, right? And narcissism. I would argue that narcissism is just love of self, and so I would kind of ask to probably I'd kind of pinpoint that I don't think Trump can both love the country and be a narcissist. Actually, I think only one of
Okay.
those can be true. Did you
So
think that's
let
fair,
me.
or is that okay?
I don't know, because my mom, like I said, I hate to make it all about me. Just as
No, you're
an
fine.
analogy, my
No,
mom
it's
was a
just what you
narcissist,
referred to in terms of your experience. You're good. I get it.
but loves
Yeah.
me to death. You know, she's my best friend. So I ask in rebuttal of that, why do you what makes you think he didn't love this country? What makes you think he was only in it for himself? Because what did he actually gain besides all of us who love him? I mean, you know, what did he gain monetarily or anything from it?
So, for example, just in the aftermath, so money is a great thing, right? Like money
Yeah.
is how you control things. But what's the most powerful position in the world? President of the United States, arguably,
I
right?
don't, well, yeah, pretty much. I don't think so right now, but historically, yes.
I'm actually inclined to agree right now. I think the most powerful person in the world might be some top, I don't know, maybe Bezos or something, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, generally, I think my thing is so there's a few kind of theories at play. There's some people who think that Trump only ran, not only ran, but it was actually more of a marketing thing. They actually didn't plan on even winning to begin with. They just thought, we'll throw our name out there, we'll market this and run with it, and then shit, we're like doing pretty well here, and then it kind of came to fruition. I think my issue with Donald Trump and why I think he's a narcissist is because it seems like when he talks, everything's about how he's so great at this, he's so good at this, he's so good at this. And oftentimes it's like, okay, hold on a second. I know you might be good at that, but you're not good at that for facts. I know you're not because you have no experience in that, or that, right? And so I think when someone starts to talk in this way, to me, it gives off a perception of more about being. I think people don't take this right away, but I think Donald Trump might be the best bullshitter I've ever come across in my life. And bullshit is an amazing skill set, actually. I know I utilize bullshit all the time sometimes to get out of situations. Be it at work, I'm a server sometimes, right? Supervisor and bookkeeper, but most of my time I'm serving because that's the best money. And there's times I got bullshit out of a situation. I have no fucking clue how the fuck to answer this question. I cannot be truthful. Time to imply my bullshit, and usually it works pretty well, right? So to
Yeah.
that end, Donald Trump is a great marketer. He's an amazing marketer. I have never seen someone so simultaneously say something that makes one group so happy and excited, right? And the other group so fucking mad, right? Because like at first, when he first came on scene, I was like, bro, Trump's a clown, but y'all are going too crazy on this shit. Like I thought, I was one of those Trump derangement syndrome. I thought the whole "not my president" stuff was crazy. I thought when people were comparing him to a fascist, like, dude, that's hyperbole. Come on, man. He might suck, but really, we're comparing him to Nazis, things like that. And then somewhere around 2018, 2019 especially, my views on all of this really started to shift. In the aftermath of George Floyd, for example, really started to shift just because of some of the rhetoric. What really did it for me though was his comment. Do you remember when there's kind of the back and forth between him and the squad? And if you know who the squad is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wait.
So the squad, if
Hold
you
on, hold on, hold on.
if,
I'm lost. I was
you're good.
reading comments. Sorry. The
Oh,
after
you're chill.
the who was it between?
I got you. So in the aftermath, kind of like last summer, and kind of even before that, there was a bit of a kind of Twitter feud between for a hot second between Trump and the Squad. And for people who don't know, the Squad is a group of four congresswomen who are seen as kind of more far left, kind of more progressive,
Oh, you're
and
talking
they're
about
kind of
Ilhan Omar and AOC.
yeah,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
them
yeah,
guys.
yeah.
And I had a problem. I actually don't agree with them on everything. In fact, I used to really dislike them, especially AOC. Obviously, that's changed a bit as I've shifted, right? Um, but one of the things I couldn't stand was his comment telling them to like go back and fix their own countries. And the problem was, wait, hold on a second. What do you mean go back? They were born here. I believe three of them were, right? It's like, and I think to me that signaled a wait a second, because you see someone who doesn't look like your vision of American, you fire off with the go back there. And it to me, it kind of signifies something deeper sometimes, right? And for me, where it took me back to people telling my dad to go back to his country when they heard his accent, for example, and things like that, right? And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. Like, why are you telling them to go back to their country? What makes you think that they're not American, right? What would make you
Yeah.
think that those people weren't American? And I don't think it was just the message, because lots of people say that message. He doesn't give that response to Nancy Pelosi, for example, right? He doesn't tell Nancy Pelosi to go back to her country.
Yeah.
And so for me, I thought that that was a racial thing. And for me, that's when I really started to change my views on Trump. That was the first time I really saw what I thought was like, damn, fuck, like that's pretty bad, man. And what happened is I heard it in the same thing people said to my dad, right? So I can only speak to my experience there. That's kind of when I really started to shift against Trump, because I know some people kind of asking why I don't like Trump. And again, I didn't vote for him in 2016, but I really became super anti-Trump around 2018, though, is when it kind of hit for me. So
I
I didn't fully
understand. I
answer
mean
your
that.
narcissist question.
So that's sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That's it's kind of what I say about everybody. We run with our emotions right now. We let our emotions lead us, and we let our personal experiences lead us, and that there's no fault in that. That's just who we are as humans. But I ask in rebuttal of that, and I'm not taking up for Trump. Like I said, he's an asshole. I love him. I'm not gonna. There's no shame in that for me. But he's an asshole, and he's gonna say things. Sometimes you say things, that you don't. It doesn't come off how you want it to, or you don't mean. Maybe you do mean it. I don't know, but you do have to watch what you say as the leader of America, So
Mm-hmm.
I ask you this in rebuttal of that just
Yeah.
because not taking
Mm-hmm.
up for Trump, but just
You're good.
because hypocrisy is almost insane when you look back at what Joe Biden has said. I mean, he called Black Americans super
Yeah.
predators. He has said so many racist things in his 120 years.
So
Sorry, it
no,
had
you're
to,
good.
but he has
No, you're
said
chill.
so many things that's like you say, well, this and this and this about Trump. He's racist, he's xenophobic, he's transphobic, he's all this. Okay, but then you turn around and vote somebody in who's almost the same
I think
in
this is
terms of
actually a
racism.
fair question. I think it's actually a fair question, because not that I think it's a good rebuttal in an equivalent sense, but because it actually brings a good point that I don't think the left actually addresses very well. So I have no issue admitting that Joe Biden has said racist shit within the last year. Like, he says stupid shit. He says racist shit because he's a product of that era. He's done things in terms of policy he's been behind that help promote uh, the war on drugs, for example, right? And the disproportionate impact that the war on drugs had on the black community, for example, right? Especially black men. Um, so I think the difference, though, between the two is I think we can point to racist rhetoric from Donald Trump and Joe Biden to some degree, right? Neither
Yeah,
one can escape that. So then I think what's the next most important thing is who do these two groups embolden, right? And I think it's fair to say we don't have to like Joe Biden, but I don't think Joe Biden's emboldening white nationalists, the KKK, the Proud Boys. While he's certainly stepped in it and even does to this day, and while he's certainly done things in his past that have hurt the black community, right, people of color, indigenous people, etc., I think that today he still creates a climate that's a little bit different, right? He's not using the same. So, for example, when the riots and looting were happening, which I think it's important to remember, when Black Lives Matter protests were going down, there was 26 million protesters worldwide. 26 million protesters who went to those things. Less than 7% of that was violent. And I think the best way to kind of classify this, do you remember kind of how, when we talk about the riots and looting, would it be fair to say that Portland was probably one of the biggest hotspots that got talked about?
yeah,
All right. So I think
yeah,
what I'll do then is we'll take it and we'll go to a specific spot and we'll just kind of analyze Portland. Um, DHS, so Department of Homeland Security, at the time they were led by Chad Wolf, who Trump had put into place himself, without without congressional approval, by the way, which is technically unconstitutional, but that got addressed by the courts later. But at the time, Chad Wolf was running DHS, and in Portland they released their crime log. And so, before I get into that crime log, I think it's fair to say the administration put out a really hard law and order stance, and they said there was like anarchy happening, right? Is that fair?
yeah,
And anarchy gives off like this idea of like crazy shit, right? Like fucking
yeah,
fires and like buildings getting torn down and fighting in the
yeah,
streets, right? You're like fucking hell, anarchy, holy shit, what's going on in
yeah,
Portland, right? We're hearing about like cities getting burned down and stuff, right? I've been to Portland like numerous times. I'm on the West Coast. Like I've been to Portland within the last year numerous times. There was about 3 to 4 blocks that were pretty crazy at times. Not gonna lie. Nighttime it got pretty crazy in there. You didn't want to be there unless you meant serious shit. But that was driven by about 150 to 200 people almost every night. During the day, at various points, you had protests that sometimes when there was at the most heated, that reached almost 10,000 to even 15,000 in Portland. Um, so the key thing here is with all that, with that anarchy going on, DHS released their crime log, and over a month span, in an entire city of Portland, there was only 200 crimes released as it related to the protesters, and of those 200 crimes, about 160 were just graffiti. And you know what they would say in that crime log? Violent anarchists committed graffiti.
Yeah,
Violent anarchists committed graffiti. Is graffiti anarchy?
it's
I don't
insane.
think so.
So, look,
But and I'm
send
going to
that
say one last thing.
aside.
I'm going to say one last thing to concede that I talked a lot. And I'll give it to you. To be fair, out of those 200 crimes, there was about 10% that was serious shit. I'm not going to deny the fact that federal buildings did get attacked. There was some cases of arson. Absolutely, there were cases of cops being attacked. So there was some violence, no fucking doubt about that. I'm not dismissing that. It goes back to the fact that I said Wheeler didn't handle that aspect well. His rhetoric was weak, and it kind of allowed for that, in my opinion. But I think the administration kind of went propaganda mode actually when it comes to the anarchy thing. So I talked a lot. Floor yours.
No, you're good. So, let's just go there with that. First of all, with Portland and the anarchy and all the BLM riots and everything. Okay. Again, it's the media. Main part of pushing it is in another day and age, had we not had the media and Facebook and Twitter and all this crap, none of us that don't live in Portland, Oregon or in the surrounding cities would have even known what was going on. So
True.
they wouldn't have had a chance to push it and fear monger, which is what they constantly do. I think, like you said, the way that stuff gets around so fast and it's all over the internet and you can literally find it everywhere, it just makes it seem so much worse than it is. Now, um, same thing could be said about the Capitol riot, but we won't go there right now. We're talking about this. So, I just I think that BLM and Black Lives Matter. Now, correct me if I'm wrong in your comments because I know you have all your followers over there. They're two different things. They're speaking two different languages.
Say
The
one more
people
time
that
for me.
actually Black Lives Matter and BLM.
Oh, I got you.
So you know what I'm saying? I mean, I know it's the same thing, but the people that I know, the people that I talk to, come in contact with that actually support Black Lives Matter, that they're pushing for equality. They're pushing for equal rights. Let's sit down, let's talk, let's have legislation go through, let's actually do something for change. And then you've got BLM that is completely, I mean, they're just violent. That that's the little parts, that was them. The anarchists where
Mm-hmm.
they were, that was them.
Boom. So we
So
just
it's
hit a
almost
good thing here, actually. You just hit a
it's
good
two
thing here,
different things.
actually. Kind of, actually, yeah. So, that's why it's important because I think this actually exposes something really important here. I would, and this is my perspective and people on my side. And when I was in Sacramento, I did go to one of the rallies down there. I think it's important to separate the Black Lives Matter protesters from looters and rioters who come out, and especially, and here's the thing, I think it's also important to realize most people want to be peaceful protesters, but there's absolutely that small segment of people. You got anarchists, you've got a small section of Antifa, and probably even certain people who might even identify with Black Lives Matter. Like I don't know anyone personally who does, but I'm not going to deny that either. There's always some percentage, right? So to that end, there's that percentage that's violent, 100%, no doubt about it. I would separate, though, Black Lives Matter protesters from looters and rioters, which is a natural inevitability, and then that group that was intentionally violent, they were targeting. So to that end, I wouldn't. That's why I use protesters and looting rioters, right? Because I think
Okay, so
99% of
we're
people I
saying
know
the
who are,
same thing, but we're using different terms.
yeah,
So, and I think that's a lot of what is going on right now. We're the two sides. Now, we're never going to agree, but we can just go ahead and say that we're never going to agree.
no,
But we're saying a lot of the same things. We really
mm-hmm.
are. And we just use different terms or we come at it differently and everybody wants to fight. And then in the end, when we sit down and talk, it's like, well, damn, she said the same thing I did. So I think we have it on the right too. Like I said, you have the looters and rioters, and then you have the actual protesters. The same thing happened at the Capitol on the
Capital.
6th, except I heard you say Antifa. So let me ask, you actually believe Antifa is real, right?
Yeah, of course, Antifa is real. Yeah.
Okay, so during the entire election, we heard so many times Antifa doesn't exist. It's an idea, and that came from Biden. I mean, straight, it's an idea, but it's not. They infiltrated the Capitol protest. Now, Trump did get up and say, I'm going to march down there with you. You know, we heard it televised. I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what was said. I don't know if the camera was cut and something else happened. I can only judge from what I see, just like the rest of us. So he did say he's going to march down to the Capitol, and I was all for it. I was all for marching down to the Capitol because that's how a protest happens. That's what you do. You peacefully go down there. You march. I mean, we march all the time for everything. We have the March of
Mm-hmm.
Dimes. We have tons of them. Um, and when the violence broke out, the first thing out of my mouth that I said was that there's no way. I mean, there may be some, like I said, we have it on the right. We have crazy people. We have people that will burn and shoot and loot and act crazy because they let their emotions get the best of them. But for the most part, I feel it was infiltrated. And they've even come out. Look, the dude in the freaking wolf hat or whatever he was wearing and all that in the Capitol, he's a paid actor. We proved it. We have the proof, the picture proof of him at other riots, at BLM protests, he's a paid actor. You've got to be blind not to see that.
So two things I respond to. Actually, three things I want to respond to there. So first on
Okay.
Antifa. My commenters are actually wrong about this to some extent. You guys are actually a little bit wrong about Antifa, right? So Antifa, while an idea, right? The idea behind Antifa is anti-fascism. And Antifa stems from Europe in the aftermath of really World War II for the most part, but the fascist movements in Europe, right? And they were created to combat fascism, right? The idea was to combat fascism. Antifa really got its start in America around 2007, 2008. Give me a second, a little loud back there.
That's
So
okay.
Antifa really got to start in the U.S. around 2007, 2008. All right, and there's no set organization, so people, right? It's largely an idea, but there are chapters of Antifa. All right, for example, Rose City Antifa. Okay, you can look them up. They're based out of Portland. There's different groups. There's decent groups of Antifa, and there's some fucking shitty groups of Antifa that are just not very well organized and kind of rogue. But in general, it's generally an idea that's supposed to mean anti-fascism. The issue is, let's just say, for example, I would probably, I'll message you later on this one. We'll try and find out
Okay.
about the horn guy. We'll talk about that one. But let's just concede that. Let's say he was a paid actor. There still was hundreds of people there, right? We can't utilize just one example to confirm what we think of the rest of the situation. So what I would suggest is look into some of the charges being filed by the Department of Justice and just kind of see some of the people who are being charged and what their backgrounds are. Because most of them are members of Proud Boys, things like that. The other thing I would suggest is just check out some of the information from the FBI and the Department of Justice on kind of domestic terrorism and kind of where that seems to kind of come from in the last couple of decades. Those are probably, I don't want to like tell you what to think or do. I probably just suggest maybe go look towards those two things and kind of see
I'm
where you think
open
there.
for learning. I don't think you ever know everything. And I think
Yeah.
that both sides need to read and learn and research. And you can do so much research and you still need to do more. So I'm up for that, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
just
so
that was the
I
whole point of it.
actually don't mean to wrap you up because like I'm not gonna lie, I've
No, you're
actually
fine.
enjoyed your conversation more than the previous two. Because first of all, you just seem more engaging and you all of them are honest, but you're pretty authentic. I really appreciate that. You're not afraid to speak your mind, which actually makes this a lot easier.
Yeah, no
Because I
problem.
think so actually I think I told you we might have to wait a little bit, right? Because I'm pretty scheduled up. But
Yeah.
I'll try to slot you in sooner, actually. Because actually, this was a
Okay.
good conversation. Because we didn't even plan this. This was spur of the moment. I thought it went
Yeah,
pretty
no.
well, actually. So you're getting some. I'm not gonna lie. My commenters didn't like your take on the election, but obviously that's where we have some mad disagreements ourselves, even. But I think you gained some respect from my followers just for being able to have a real conversation and being honest and forthright. I think you came across well today, and you came across well to me. I had a good conversation here,
Yeah,
so I don't want you to think I'm running out. I'm just hungry as a motherfucker. I haven't eaten yet.
that's
So,
okay. I have followers that are agreeing with you too on some things and not agreeing on others, but I think that's what we need to do. We need to find common ground and unify there and let separate ideas be separate ideas.
100%.
So I
And
look
so,
forward to the next talk.
100%. Appreciate you, Miss Queen. It was a good talk.
Yeah,
100%. I will
thank
hit you
you.
in the DMs either. If I don't hit you pretty soon, hit me up. I just I kind of get scatterbrained, and I'll get you in as soon as I can. I might even bump someone for
Definitely.
you. So
Thanks, Matt.
cool. Of course. Take care of yourself. All right, guys. I'm gonna
Bye.
wrap this up on my side of things here. We'll do a quick little end.